Hello, this is Banroop.
Hi, this is Noor.
We will be discussing allopatric and sympatric speciation with you today. So, what is speciation? Speciation is the evolutionary process of the origin of a new species involving reproductive isolation. There are four methods of speciation, one being allopatric speciation, the second being sympatric, the third being peripatric, and the fourth parapatric. But today we will only be discussing allopatric and sympatric speciation. So, what is allopatric speciation? Let's begin with the prefix and suffix of the word. Allo means other, and patric means place. So, altogether, it means it's a new species originating from geographically isolated populations. So, when these species become isolated due to the geographic barrier, they end up evolving over time and differing genetically and or physically, as well as due to the natural selection imposed on them by their environments. Due to this, gene flow becomes interrupted and it comes to an end due to the geographic barrier, and the populations end up becoming so different from one another that if they were to come into contact again, they would no longer be able to interbreed because they become reproductively isolated and they cannot exchange genes since they are different species. An example of allopatric speciation are the Kabib and Abert squirrels of the Grand Canyon. The Kabib squirrel became isolated from its ancestor approximately 10,000 years ago due to a geographic barrier, which was the Grand Canyon. Its most closest ancestor is the Abert squirrel, which is located on the opposite side of the Grand Canyon. So, evidence of allopatric speciation occurring are the locations of the squirrels, which are then being located on opposite sides of the Grand Canyon, the physical barrier.
Moving on from allopatric speciation, now we will be discussing sympatric speciation. So let's start with some prefixes and suffix of the word. Syn meaning same, while patric means place. So it could be said that the origin of this word basically means that both of the species are from the same place. They occur when there is no geographic barrier that separates the diverging population, neither a sort of grading in selective conditions. Two possible explanations of sympatric speciation are that, number one, resource competition, and number two, reproductive isolation without geographic barriers. An example of sympatric speciation can be found in the cichlid fish in Nicaragua's Lake Apoyo. The arrow cichlid was evolved from the Midas cichlid that was found in the lake. After extensive research was conducted, it was found that the two species were the result of sympatric speciation. The genetic evidence had also suggested that the species were divided up in non-obvious ways. The reason why the cichlid developed into two different species can be found by resource competition and reproductive isolation. The Midas cichlid is high-bodied and short in length, which suggests that it was morphologically associated with living at the bottom. The diet analysis also showed the same. While the arrow cichlid was low-bodied and longer in length, which suggested that it was an open water forager and was morphologically associated with feeding on the top. The diet analysis of that fish also proved the same point. Moving on to the reproductive isolation, both the arrow and Midas cichlids preferred mating with their own species, thus resulted in reproductive isolation and two very different distinct species.